So Michael Jr., it is, man, it's fun to be with you. We met, several months ago, and it was kind of love at first sight, man, even though you're married with 5 kids dope. And you talk about marriage. But man, that was fun, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was really good. You were on stage smashing a room of 7,700 people, right? Wow. I mean, just really ripping the room up. They didn't know what to expect, so you're just a phenomenal communicator, like really.
Wow.
And now we're at the point where you should compliment me because I'm your guest. Go.
That's right. This is going to be about you. And I tell you, and then I did have an opportunity to hang around and hear you do your jam. And beyond your incredible abilities on stage, I think what really landed with me so much is that you talk about the way in which you do what you do for so many others who really need to laugh. We go to prisons and support and serve so many people. That was really powerful. It told me who you really are. It was cool.
Yeah. So you're referring to, we have a nonprofit called Funny for the Forgotten, where we go to homeless shelters and prisons, abused children facilities, and make laughter commonplace in those uncommon places. It's fun. I have a blast, like going to prisons. I actually got a chance to do a show for Charles Manson. This was before he was, this is when he was alive, because it's funnier.
Got it.
So I actually had an opportunity to be like, well, he was actually in, what's it called, solitary confinement. So, but they wanted me to go visit and talk to him.
Okay.
Like prior to me going on and doing a comedy show for the rest of the people.
Wow.
And,
okay.
I was like, hey, so before we do this, what do you want us to talk about? I'm just curious. Like, what are we going to talk about?
You said that to him?
No, I said that to the people putting it together.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
Story, because I don't know how much me and Charles Manson have in common, but either way, it's all cool. I love.
Did you do the one-on-one with him in advance? I'm just curious.
I didn't do the one-on-one.
Took a pass
because
no,
it just didn't work out from a scheduling.
Were you afraid they weren't going to let you out of that cell? Maybe his little solitary.
Yeah, exactly.
You thought you'd be in there forever with him.
He was there for the whole time, but I had stuff to do. I think that's what it worked out. No,
I get it.
It just didn't work out from a scheduling perspective, but I'm just honored that people would trust me in those types of facilities to bring laughter and just some enlightenment as well. So it's pretty cool.
For sure. When did you first realize that you had a gift relative to comedy?
Oh, so I'm 9 years old. I'm in this house. I grew up in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Right? You're from Michigan too, right?
Amen. East Lansing. Yeah, East Lansing, Michigan. Grand Rapids is a killer town, though. I love that place.
Yeah, we were like 45 minutes from each other.
Yeah, we were. Do
you remember Connections Comedy Club?
I do not, but I was on the tennis court, man. You were just making jokes.
It was the first place I ever did comedy. Connections Comedy Club. In fact, they used to have an open mic on Tuesday nights, and I went up there and I did my set, and people laughed. And I remember to this day, I still remember my first joke, but I get up on stage and I did my set. It was 3 minutes long. It was an open mic. And I still to this day remember sitting there waiting on one of the Tonight Show producers to tap me on my shoulder and say, hey, we want you on the Tonight Show. I'm like 19 years old. I actually thought that was going to happen. I sat there.
Wow, that's confidence. How long.
No, I just didn't understand the game. And then I got a tap on the shoulder, and it was the manager saying, hey, buddy, we're closing. I don't know why we're still here. you don't have to go home.
You're like, where's the Tonight Show guy? I got to talk to him. Did you not let him in, man? Where is that guy? Oh, that's amazing. So tell me about that. So you're 9 years old. You started to say.
The first time I realized I was funny, I'm 9 years old. We're at some friends of a relative's house in Michigan, and it is winter time. And I go in this house with my dad and my uncle, and the house is filthy.
Ooh.
Quite possibly one of the most, not just unorganized. There was food on the ground, the floor. It was just really bad, and it was hot. I'm talking about hot because they were on welfare, so they would turn the heater all the way up to it felt like it was 110 degrees in there. And then there's roaches, and you could see mice running around, and there's people living in this place too. But I'm 9 years old. So we leave that place, and I had to use the restroom, right? So I went upstairs to go to the restroom, and as soon as I opened the door, immediately, I didn't have to use the restroom anymore. Let me just say that. It was really bad.
Right.
So I remember leaving, and me and my dad and my uncle got in the car. I'm sitting in the back seat, and I grew up in a household where when grown people talking, you don't talk negative about grown people. And I'm 9 years old. I'm sitting in the back seat, and I said to my dad, in the form of a question. I put it in the form of a question. I had a feeling it would be funny, but I put it in the form of a question just to make sure. That way I don't get disciplined in case I'm being disrespectful. I said, "Hey, Dad, I didn't know you could have flies in January." And him and my uncle cracked up laughing. Because for those who don't know, who are from different parts of the world,
That's
flies
right.
don't exist in less than 45 degrees. And it's January. It is 22 degrees outside. But
Yep.
inside, they have flies, which
Yeah.
is not supposed to happen. So my
Right.
dad and
Totally.
my uncle laughed. They still talk about that moment to this day. But that was
Wow.
my first glimpse of saying, you know what, I think if I say and do these things, people might actually have that response. I didn't calculate it, know I can make a full career out of it,
Right.
but it was a moment for me for sure.
When did you realize you could make a career out of it?
I'm still waiting. Any moment now, the whole thing will come together.
I think you have, man. I mean, I
Yeah.
think you're on track at least. When'd
No,
you
yeah.
realize you were on track?
Oh, I would say probably. I thought I knew I was on track the first time I did the Tonight Show. Right. I thought like this is it. But I'm gonna tell you, my big break for real was when I was outside of a club in Los Angeles, and right, I'm about to get on stage, and right before I got on stage, I had this shift in mindset. My mindset had always been to get laughs from people, but I had this shift take place, and I felt like instead of trying to get laughs from people, I was supposed to give them an opportunity to laugh. Molly, this changed everything because there was like this shift that took place. It's the reason this shift is why I started the nonprofit Funny for the Forgotten. So this shift takes place, and I remember getting on stage. It was at the Comedy and Magic Club in Los Angeles. I get up on stage, and it was probably 20, 25 seconds before I did my first joke. And the reason is, even as I look back at it, it was because my job had shifted to give them an opportunity to laugh. Like it was like I was giving people a gift. When you have a gift for someone, you don't open the door and immediately shove it in their face. You wait and assess the scenario so you can present the gift at the time. The other part of it is the gift is for them. It's not for you. Meaning my job was only to present the gift. Even if they didn't laugh, I was okay with that, which is another reason why I can go to homeless shelters and prisons and do comedy too, because I'm not trying to get anything from them. So we had a great time that night. We laughed so hard. It was such a great show. Because now as I'm listening in between the gaps while people are laughing, I'm asking the question, what can I give to my audience? And different things is popping up, different stories and understanding or noticing people in the room. But then afterwards, I go outside and I'm signing autographs and we're taking pictures. And I remember looking across the street and I saw a homeless guy outside. Now, this is Hermosa Beach, actually. So homeless people in Hermosa Beach didn't exist. I've been to this club so many times before, I can't even explain it. But I had never seen a homeless guy outside this club before, ever. But Molly, that doesn't mean he wasn't there before. That just means before my mindset was to get laughs from people. So why would I even notice a homeless person if I'm trying to only get laughs? When I changed my question to what can I give, I started noticing him and all these different things. And now one of the things I do when I'm on stage doing a keynote or coaching is I explain to people the shift that needs to take place is how do I give? And it's not just asking the question. Like most people are asking a question subconsciously and they're not even aware of it. And it's a question of what can I get? But if you can internally shift that question to what can I give, you'll be amazed at what you find in the opportunities.
Yeah, wow. Amen. I love that. And so you make this shift to what can I give, which transforms really in so many ways the trajectory of your career relative to, I'm sure, the way you show up on stage, the kind of jokes you write, the nonprofit work that you do.
Yeah.
Get me inside.
It changed so much stuff. You're completely correct. Go ahead.
So what exactly, I mean, can you get me inside of that a little bit deeper relative to the way that just that slight shift in the question that you were asking yourselves changed the way you showed up?
So as a comedian, or now just a keynote or comedic thought leader, whatever people are calling me these days, normally when I get on stage, let's say I may be presenting, this has happened my entire career, but I didn't notice it until I didn't notice it till about 7, maybe 8 years ago. When I get on stage, I may be presenting and say joke number 1. But at the same time, I'd be doing the math on what I think joke number 2 should be based off people are currently responding to joke number 1. Then I'd do the math on joke number 3 and what that joke should be based off how people are currently responding to joke number 1 and probably will respond to joke number 2. Then I move on to joke number 4. I actually used to go 7 jokes deep. So I have 7 jokes in my head in queue based off of what they're saying, and I'm making all these adjustments. Even though I'm saying one joke, I'm thinking about number 7.
Right.
But when this shift took place, I couldn't go 7 deep anymore because on stage, as I said, I'm listening in between the gaps, and I'm reading the crowd, and I'm asking what do they need. Because what people want and what they need are completely different things a lot of the times. So people
What are
are
you
showing
looking
up because
for?
people are showing up because they want to laugh, but again, that's not what they need. So there was a time, in fact, I have a comedy special on YouTube called More Than Funny. And at the end of that comedy special, in fact, this whole comedy special is that. It's funny. In this comedy special, it's an hour of comedy. It's free on YouTube. But in the middle of it, the first story, we just break from the stage, and it's a story about an artist that I met. And then I also met a family whose special needs son passed away. So I actually convinced the artist to draw a picture of the special needs son and the dad, and we surprised this family with this picture. And then boom, we're right back into the jokes. Wow. You would listen to this and be like, how in the world is this even possible? And then I do another 20 minutes of comedy, and then boom, we're in Fort Worth, Texas, in a wooded area on an ATV going to rescue homeless people out the woods and help them find apartment buildings. I'm talking about in the middle of the jokes. And then the last one, we find a family that the car got stolen, and we blessed them with a brand new vehicle. It was so cool. But here's the thing. You wouldn't expect that in the middle of comedy. This is why I call it More Than Funny.
Right.
But it all stems from me asking a different question, which is, what can I give? Yeah, we're still going to laugh, but I'm saying, what else? Like, what am I really supposed to give? They're showing up because of this Sam's Club's, this Costco sample. But can I really deliver when they get the bag? That's what I really want to do. And here's what I've learned. Everyone has a job that is in preparation for their work. And here's what I mean. Your job just prepares you for the true work you're supposed to do on this earth.
Yeah.
So I have a friend who's a real estate. He flips houses, some really, really nice houses. He flips and makes money. A lot of times he'll flip a house that none of the other contractors will touch. Like, he just won't. He's been doing this for years. And he was getting a little tired of it. And I said, dude, that was your job, but let's look and see what your work really is. So I was with him at his daughter's game. He was talking to the coach, and I overheard him really, really encouraging the coach in a way that I can't even, like, it was pretty phenomenal. And then later he explained to me that the coach was calling him on a regular basis because he was able to help him so much just with his words. And I said to him, and he does this all the time, but he never noticed it before. I said, when you find a house, it's in bad condition, and you're the one who can come into the house and help restore it and get it to the place where most people can't even see how. I said, the guy who coaches your son's team was in that place as well, and you showed up with the right tools and the right equipment to be able to help him see the value and receive the value that was already in him. So his job prepared him for his work. Here's another example. Molly, what do you like best with regards to podcasts? Do you like having a guest on, or do you prefer just doing the solo episodes?
I like guests.
Really?
I do.
Let me ask you this question.
I like them both. I truly do. Not to like overly hedge. I'm at a point where I wouldn't do them, any of it, if I didn't like it. I like them both, but I love people. I get energy from people.
Yeah. So, and then let me ask this question. Would you prefer, when you were playing tennis, a ball machine or a human being?
A human being.
Really?
Because it's more translatable.
Wow, really?
Well, it's more real. I mean, if I'm going to play, a ball machine's going to put the ball exactly where I tell it to put it, potentially, and that's not real life. When you're competing.
Yeah.
Am I jamming you up?
No, I'm just showing you the parallel. I'm just waiting on you to see it.
Interesting.
So you
Yeah.
prefer going back and forth
Yeah.
with the people,
Right.
but
Yeah.
it's just because it's a part of who you already are. Like that's your jam, as opposed to a ball
Yeah.
machine. It's just
Right.
you, very predictable. You already know what you're gonna say, so by
Yeah.
default, you would already like the other thing.
Yeah.
In fact, I've seen you on stage. You're pretty doggone strong on like. Let me ask this: singles or doubles, if you had to choose?
I was a better doubles player than I was a singles player.
Oh, nice, really good. So,
I see the
so have you
parallel
ever
there
thought
too,
about having
boss.
what's that?
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
But
Having
just
a
because you were
co-host.
better, my question was, which one did you like?
I liked doubles because I was pretty aggressive and I like getting to the net, and that's where you spend a lot of your time in doubles is at the net. But I think too, I like that team, component, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you positioning to be my co-host, Michael? Is that what's happening right now? You want to
That's
be my
hilarious.
co-host on this
that,
bad
that
boy?
that would be hilarious. I just told you how much I
That
love
might be some
podcasts.
good stuff.
That would be
That
really
might be
good,
some good
actually.
stuff.
That
Yeah.
would be actually really, really good. One of us could,
I'm j-
yeah, that could be dope. So everyone, even your listeners, it's very important that you understand. This is one thing I love helping people see is if you have a job, if you're doing something that you don't necessarily love, I'm telling you, just take a look at it because it could be preparation for the thing
Yeah.
you're actually called to do in the earth. Like it's preparation for your work. Nothing is wasted. Nothing.
Well, and you know what's so interesting? I spoke at our church yesterday, and I always get the question, right? Like, how did you go from being an agent to a speaker? And to your point about the job creates the work, and I think the word work too, you potentially would use the word purpose, potentially even
Yeah,
too,
absolutely.
in
Yeah.
addition to that word. And and we are both people of strong faith, and I think when I rewind that tape, people might go, wow, that worked out really great. Like sports agent, first female sports agent, for 15 years. And now you've got this story to tell relative to being one of the first female as a mom and a wife through the lens of sports as a chick from stages, but as a former sports agent. But that wasn't, I'm babbling and my guys can cut this out, Michael, but I think what I'm trying to sort of connect to is that I agree so much with what you're saying relative to the job, to the work. And I think we have to pay attention, don't we, to
Absolutely.
what we're seeing happening in our life that could be signs from God and wherever you are in the world and however you view these things, that, wow, this is all happening and somebody else is driving this, and maybe it isn't just me preparing for my work or my purpose. Yeah.
A great example is I get to do, I'm on stage doing comedy or keynotes or whatever, or we're on tour, the Funny How Marriage Works tour or something.
Yeah.
And I'm doing comedy so when I create comedy, man, which one do I want to do? So when I create comedy, what I'm actually doing is I'm yielding conflict. Well, let me say it like this. Most of the time what I do is I'll see the punchline first. Whenever I write a joke, most of the time I see the punchline first, then I just reverse engineer how to get to that punchline.
Interesting.
Right? So that's all I'm doing. I see it and I reverse engineer and I get there. Now, if you can imagine, I'm doing this math every single joke. In fact, I learned that I could adjust the punchline and then get more laughs. Then I started noticing I could actually adjust the setup. We were talking about some of this beforehand.
Yeah.
And it would actually cause the punchline to be even greater. Now, I'm doing this math every single joke. And I'm doing anywhere from 75 to 120 jokes per show, sometimes up to 9 shows a night. And I've been doing this for 30 years. So imagine how much insight I have about how to find the joke, the conflict, the punchline, and just constantly. And I'm learning this constantly and getting it affirmed every time someone laughs or every time they don't laugh. Now, that was my work. I mean, I'm sorry, that was my job. But my work is actually, it involves me having this ability to find conflicts in people and situations because it's what I was doing all along. Comedy is all about conflict. So an example that I say on stage sometimes is I say, so I have 5 kids. and I travel a lot, so I can see them all, right? Right? Everyone laughs, but here's what happened there. Most people think what they need to get what they want is more information, but you don't need more information. What people really need is conflict. So when we're doing our Funny How Marriage Works tour, we're explaining to couples how valuable conflict is in a relationship. Because in the example I just gave, when I said I got 5 kids and I travel a lot so I can see them all, the first thing I did was I gave you more information. I said, I have 5 kids. He was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. I heard that. I read that. We talked about it before. Then I said, I travel a lot. All of that is the information aspect of it. But then I introduced the conflict. I said, I travel a lot so I could see them all. And because you're curious throughout that conflict, you got to the next stage, which was revelation exposed by your laughter. So just to recap, there's information, then there's conflict, then there's revelation. Without the conflict, there's actually no revelation. And here's how I show audiences that. So I have 5 kids, and I love them. See, nothing. You're just staring at me like, oh, okay, great.
Right.
Because there's no revelation on the other end of that. And the reason there's no revelation is because there's no conflict. In fact, it's probably safe to say that if conflict wasn't necessary, could we say that Jesus could have came to the earth, started his ministry, and died in his sleep?
Right.
But he didn't. He actually went through a whole bunch of conflict to get to the cross so we could have the revelation that we currently have. But what most people do in marriage and in life is they try to avoid the conflict. But that is where the gold is. You just have to know how to utilize the conflict. So what we do with couples is we help them utilize their conflicts for the greatest level of revelation they could have in their marriage. What if it was the case that you didn't necessarily get married so this person could make you happy? What if you got married so that person could actually push a button so you could see an area where you weren't free, and now this conflict is the opportunity to be free? That's what we're showing people in marriage. And we're wrapping it in laughter too. Otherwise, people are a little, I think the comedy is like people used to think that for me, comedy was the meal. It's not. It's a seasoning.
It's not. Exactly. Yeah. I saw that.
Yeah.
And so when you talked about the process, the information, the conflict, is it always in that order?
Yeah, because you want people to get on board with what you're talking about. If you start with a conflict, nobody's listening. Here's an example.
Right.
So I was talking to Trump the other day. Yeah, nobody. Like, we just lost half the audience if I say that. Or hey, I was talking to Kamala the other day. I can't start with the conflict because people immediately are done. Hey, Jesus says I can't because there's too much they can't. I have to start and connect where they are. I have to start with the information. So comedy, just like the delivery of any content, even if it's not funny, is A, B, 3. You thought I was going to say C, but I didn't.
Right.
I gave you the information you were expecting, but I said 3, and at first it felt like it didn't fit. But then you realize, oh, snap, it actually does.
Yeah.
And that's the revelation portion of it. So more times than not, that is the case. In fact, I would submit every time you laugh or have an aha moment, that formula has taken place in some shape or form. If a guy's walking down the street and he trips and falls, most dudes are going to laugh. Some women might be like, oh, is he okay? No. We laugh. But the reason we're going to laugh is because the setup is we've seen thousands of people walk down the street before. It's not that hard. That's the setup. That's the information. But this dude couldn't do it. Boom. That's the conflict. That's the fun right there.
It's interesting, though, that you start with the revelation. You start with the punchline.
Absolutely. Like, where do I want my audience, where do I want them to land? And then what's the best way to get there based off where they already are?
And so tell me how you unpack that, how you think about that, how you identify the punchline. What's the thinking around creating that?
So I will just see a punchline. For example, where's one? Oh, I was, so let me give you this one. I'm thinking about, I've been working out lately. Well, I started out slow. I got a weighted blanket.
Right.
So with that, all I saw was weighted blanket.
Got it.
And when I saw the word weight in blanket, I'm like, there's some funny there because nobody, like, this thing is heavy. It's whatever. Right. Now, where do I need to be for this to make sense? Let me play with the word weight, and then let me pull out, okay, with weights, what do people do? Oh, they want to work out. So how do I? So I'm just literally just working backwards to get to the phrase weighted blanket.
Got it, because
So
that's the
another
punchline.
one. I was doing a interview, and a lot of times I'm interviewed to ask the question, "Hey, if you can go back 20 years and talk to your younger self, what would you say?" For me, I wouldn't say anything because he's not gonna listen. Like, what? Like, what is the point? I'm not
Right,
gonna
right,
say anything.
right,
Like, go ahead, man, do your thing. You'll see.
right.
You're
Yeah,
gonna learn.
yeah,
Which
yeah,
is
yeah.
which is countering what most people would say under that
Right,
circumstance.
100%.
But so more times than not, the counter is what's funny. Like
Yeah,
A, B, everybody's gonna say C.
yeah.
So what's the real, like what would I say? Let me back it up that way. So this works in comedy, but it also works in just communication as a whole. So one of your points in your book, one of your points on stage was we just talked about it a little while ago. Oh, your ingenuity behind helping people, like all the creativity you show when you were barely making rent or whatever in
Right,
Atlanta.
right.
Brilliant. Like the whole thing was set up so doggone well. But because it was set up so well, people received the punchline so much better, which was the point that you were trying to make. There's a few little baby micro adjustments that you could make in light of in light of a punchline
Right,
thinker.
right, right.
But you delivered it naturally regardless. See, most of the time what people will do is they'll tell you a true story. Nobody wants to hear your true story. They want a funny story. That's what they want. Like, just
Right,
be clear.
right.
They really
Yes,
make it funny.
yes.
Make it funny.
Yeah,
If it's
totally.
funny and
I
true,
agree.
that's even better. If it's
I am a big,
yeah.
totally, and I think it's funny because to me, I think it's funny, but no, that was sort of a little bit of a play on words. Did you like that, Michael?
Yeah,
No,
that was
but
great.
what's interesting about it is I think humor as a keynote speaker is such an important component, and I think it's often overlooked.
Yes.
How powerful it is. I mean, I would say most of my audiences are laughing every 5, 6, 7 minutes at least, which I'm not Michael Jr., right? So I'm not trying to get a laugh every 30 seconds, you know what I mean? Or whatever.
No, that's gold. That's gold. And
But
I would
it's
agree
an
with you when I saw you. When I saw you on stage, I would agree. That's why I was able to tag up the stuff you were saying so well. For those who don't know, when we were sharing the stage in front of those almost 8,000 people,
Yeah.
I'm doing this thing where I'm looking for spikes in the event. There's a bunch of speakers. There's 12, 15 speakers. Molly gets on stage and she has some of the greatest spikes. And what I mean is what is going to be most heartfelt for the audience that they'll still remember when I get on stage later. So I'm reading the room to do the math on what that might be. And then your spikes, I think you had a good 2 or 3 of them that I was able to then call back when I got on stage and then really ride the wave of the heart connection that you made with them and then add it to the one that I got to make with them as well. So for some people that
Well, listen, this is about you, boss. So I want to play off of something that I thought was really interesting that I heard you say once, which is in life, there's a setup and there's a punchline. Your setup is what you receive, but your punchline is about what you're called to deliver. And it feels like as it relates to the way your career has progressed, the job that prepared you for the work, which in turn is your purpose. How do you think about purpose?
Yeah, so I feel like when I said the line, your setup is about what you've received. Your punchline is what you're called to deliver. Most people know what their setup is. You have this career, you have this house, the car, you have these friends. Most people know their setup, but very few people understand what their punchline is. And again, your punchline is about what you're called to deliver. And what happens is if you don't know your punchline, if you don't know what you're called to deliver, you'll think what you need to be happy, to be fulfilled is more setup. If I could just get married.
Totally.
Then I'd be good. If I could just get this raise, if I could just make this much money. But what you really need to know is what is your punchline? What is your purpose? And when I talk about purpose, sometimes I know it's a little fluffy and people think, well, how do I know what my purpose is? Listen, it's really not that much work to walk in purpose. I know people tripping right now. It's really not that much work. I was doing I was probably keynoting somewhere, And this lady raised her hand, because I'll take questions too, because let's keep it extra interesting. I never know what somebody's going to say. This lady said, well, how do I walk in my purpose? I work at a UPS store right now. That's what she said. I said, well, what do you feel like your purpose is? And she didn't know. The key question to ask in determining what your purpose is, I think the worst question people ask, especially right before they go to college, is, or people ask their kids, what do you want to do? Who cares what you want to do? Right. The question to ask is, who do you want to serve? Like, who are your people? What is that thing that gets you kind of riled up and you say to yourself, someone has to do something about this? Because if you can at least get close to who your people are, there's multiple ways that you can serve those people. The key is to find out who are they, and they never have a complexion, they never have a nationality. I'm here to make sure all black people are treated. No, you're not. No, God did not tell you. Hey, God did not send you to earth to say, hey, you're gonna go there and make sure all white people are educated. Like, I've never heard God say to me ever. And God has never described a person physically to me before. He'll say something like, hey, I want you to give him $1,000. And I already know who it is. He said, hey, see that Mexican dude over there? Give him $1,000. No, it's never that. So your people are, it's like a people group. Kids who are undereducated, single moms. Who are your people? So this lady at the UPS store, she says, I work with her a little bit, and she finally says, I know that I'm called to help single moms, but how am I supposed to help them at this UPS store? And I said to her, well, you live in Dallas. What area in Dallas has the highest percentage of single moms? And she's like, I don't know. I said, well, that would probably help. I said, you can probably find what area has the highest percentage of single moms and see if you could transfer to the UPS store in that location. And if a single mom comes in there and you sell her a stamp, have you helped her? And then she got a little teary, because the truth is she didn't. People think it's this big move to start walking a purpose. No, her simply opening up Google and asking the question, where is the highest percentage of single moms, is her taking a step in her purpose right there in that moment. So purpose isn't something that's way off. Purpose is something that is inside of you and it's ready to come out, and you could actually do it today.
Yeah. So for people that are listening, and you know, because I get this question a lot too, Michael Jr., and I think it's such an important thing to reverse engineer at some level your legacy, your tombstone, your 90th birthday party, your life, in service of ensuring that the daily behaviors are laddering up to the legacy that you want to leave, the purpose that you want to live into. But to your point, I think people chase often, and candidly, when you ask them, what are you chasing? And I had a friend of mine once, I asked her that question. She was working like crazy. She was getting promotions. She was traveling. She was all these things, but she was also describing some things that weren't going well in her life. And I said, what are you chasing? And she looked at me like I was crazy. What do you mean? What kind of question is that? I'm like, well, I'm just like, is it a new house? I mean, what is this all for? So I think it's such an important thing. What, for somebody that's like, got it. Okay, I get the UPS store, the analogy, but what are the kinds of things that you would encourage people to say to start to ask themselves? Because I agree with you. It feels so big and lofty. Sometimes people just stay stuck. And often it's just that one next right little step toward living into your purpose.
Yeah. So I'm going to do this for your audience. I'm going to do it through you, though. Okay?
Okay. Yeah.
So as an audience member, I want you to participate in this as well, because we're talking about if you're chasing or if you're running or whatever. So Molly. So there's two Mollys, right? There's Molly A and there's Molly B, right? Molly A, you're in the same shape, same physical shape. Everything is completely the same stamina, all that. Molly A wants to run up a mountain. It's a big hill. Molly A wants to run up the mountain. And then she runs all the way to the top of the mountain. Without stopping, she runs all the way to the top of the mountain. How does Molly feel when she gets to the top of the mountain? And again, as all of the listeners, this is for you as well. Insert your name as opposed to Molly's name. You wanted to run to the top of the mountain, and you ran in one burst and got to the top of the mountain. How do you feel?
You feel great for about a minute.
Ooh, you're already giving me some insights. But here, Yeah, you feel great. And when you say great, expound on that a little bit. Like, is it
I mean, you feel exhilarated. You looked up there. You decided you were going to run it. You run it. You get there. You're probably a little bit out of breath. You were a little bit tired, but you're exhilarated because you hit the top.
Beautiful. Absolutely. So I'm going to have you put an I on it, though. Say that again, but just put an I on it instead of
okay.
We're not talking about me. We're talking about Molly. How do you feel when you get there?
I feel exhilarated, a little tired, probably joyful that I got up to the top of the mountain. Beautiful. Accomplished. Yep.
Beautiful. Molly B runs up the same mountain, probably at the same pace, but she's getting chased by 2 dogs going up the mountain. How does she feel when she gets up there?
Relieved. That she didn't get eaten up by the dogs, potentially. She's relieved that she didn't get that. To use the I word again in service of what you just said, I would feel relieved that the dogs didn't catch me.
Got it. Now let me ask this question. Which one are you?
I'm not sure I'm either one.
Okay, please expound. Because Molly A wanted to run up there, and she feels accomplished when she got there. Regardless of your career, what you're doing right now, and she feels accomplished when she gets there. Molly B is tired, was a little afraid, a little scared, and now she got to figure out. I mean, now she don't know if these dogs are about to wake back up, and she might have to run again.
Right. Well, I don't believe in chasing the top of the mountain. I mean, fundamentally, I don't believe in that. I believe that you have to. It's this daily and consistent pursuit, and it's paying really close attention to all the things that you're leaving behind along the mountain as you're running up. You know, I sort of think of it like if you picked up the center of a napkin, right at the center and all the corners, when you're lifting it, you want all these other things to come with you. And so, and what I know is that you can't pursue the top of the mountain in isolation. I think you've got to go and run toward the top of a mountain, but it isn't about the top of the mountain that you're actually pursuing. It's really about who you're becoming along the way, and that you're not only focused on the top of the mountain, that you're maybe there's another mountain on the other side and another one on the other side and another one on the other side, and all along those climbs, those journeys, you're making progress and becoming a better version of yourself. And I think the final peak of the mountain is heaven.
That is so beautiful. Wow. Way to take my analogy and just use it for your own good. That is amazing.
That's not what I was doing, man. But I mean, I'm just saying.
Perfect analogy. And you're going to turn it into this beautiful poetic. And then there you are in life. And now you're with Jesus. Like you had trees and people and flowers and all of this stuff.
Napkins.
I had none of that. It was a doggone hill.
Well, here's I love what I think it was Nick Saban that said, like, if you want to feel great for an hour, eat a hamburger. If you want to feel great for a half a day, play golf. If you want to feel happy, and he sort of has this sort of analogy that he runs through, this metaphor that he runs through, and then it's sort of that it's about who we're becoming along the way, who we're serving along the way. So I'm sorry if I jammed up your.
No, you didn't. Not nearly
okay,
as
so
bad as you
I have no. Okay, so but land this plane for me, man.
Oh, so
Molly A and Molly B, the top of the mountain.
Yeah. So what happens normally is let's just be clear. It's not normal. You are one of these two. You just are, right? The analogy you went off of was great, but you lean towards one or the other. You're doing the thing like with let's say the podcast, the books, or whoever is listening right now, entrepreneur. Stay-at-home mom, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You lean towards one of the two, and most of the time,
I'm leaning toward Molly A. Then, if that's your
Molly A. Great
question. Yeah.
A lot of times, and
I don't feel like I'm getting chased by dogs.
And some of your guests may be in this place where Molly B. or guest B. may feel like they're being chased by some dogs. But what people never do, I was working with a guy. I was coaching this guy who was an alcoholic. His wife just is like, hey, we don't know what to do. They tried AA, all of this stuff, right? And this is the same subject, but it's different. Trust me. So I said to him, so I've never met this guy before, ever. Never met him before. And we're sitting down for dinner with our wives, and he hasn't had a drink.
He ordered a glass of wine.
Yeah, no, no, he hadn't had a drink. I don't drink. He hadn't had a drink in like 18 months or something, or 9 months or something. And then
Okay.
his wife orders something, and it's non-alcoholic, and it goes by his nose, and he says something like, "Oh, make sure there's not no alcohol in there." And I'm amazed at the fact that you could smell alcohol. I don't know that because I never drank alcohol.
Uh-huh.
And I said, "You can smell if there's alcohol in there." And he says to me, "Yeah, I'm the one that's alcoholic, not her." That's what he said. But I know he hasn't had a drink in 9 months. And we're meeting to see if I can coach this dude or not, see if he's coachable or see if it's a good fit.
Right. Right.
And I said to him, he said, "I'm the one that's alcoholic, not her." I was like, "Oh," I said, "You're alcoholic?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "I thought you hadn't had a drink in 9 months." He said, "Once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic." I was like, "Wow, really?" I said, "That's right, because you're a banker too, right?" And he was like, "No, no, 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 no. I used to be a banker. I haven't worked at that place in like a year." I said, "No, no, 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 no. But once you're a banker, aren't you always a banker?" And then he says this. He says, "Do you even know anybody who's an alcoholic?" I said, "I had 3 of them on my team, and none of them drink anymore." And then he said, "I call BS." That's what he said to me. Then I did the dog analogy. I said, "Listen, man." I asked this question. I said, "Why do you drink?" And I don't have anything against people to drink, but his life was kind of rolling out of control.
Sure.
I said to him, I
Sure.
said, "Why do you drink?" And he said, "Because," he said, I can't drink. I can't drink. I don't drink anymore. I got to stay away from it." I said, "I know, but can you just play with me for a second? Like, why did you drink?" He said, "It doesn't matter. I can't drink anymore. I can't drink. I can't drink. I can't drink." I said, "I get that, dude, but," I said, but why?" I said, "You're running from a dog." I said, you're running from this dog. Like, you can't drink." I said, "But wouldn't you be curious to find out if there's actually a dog behind you? Like, what if you were imagining that there's a dog, but you've been trained through the organization you're in?" There's some great organizations that help people stop drinking and stop abusing. But you've been trained to run from the thing, but you never questioned what the thing was. I said, "What if the dog doesn't even have teeth? What if he's not even like?" And then I could tell he's a little upset. He doesn't get. So I'm like, "Cool. We don't even got our menus yet. This is our first we don't even have our menus, and we're going in this
Wow.
deep." So I said to myself, I said, "This coaching, I won't be able to coach him because there's no curiosity there. And you have to be
Sure.
curious. You have
Yep.
to be curious."
Yep.
So I got my menu up, and he got his up like this, and we're sitting across from each other. And then this dude lowers his menu and said, "What do you mean, what if there's not a dog?" And when he said that, I knew we were going to have the breakthrough that we have now. I
Yeah.
just knew
Yeah.
it
Wow.
as a result
Wow.
of it. Because he could see the difference between wanting to do something and having to do something. If you have to do it, it will drive you bonkers.
Yeah.
You can't not do it. And I'd rather, in fact, at our first meeting, he came to my house and we met, and he showed up 20 minutes early. And I was like, "Dude, why are you?" And the gate let me know when people were coming in. I said, "Dude, you can't come in the house yet. I'm still with my family." He's 20 minutes
Right.
early. And I said to
Wow.
him, I said, "Why are you 20 minutes early?" He said, "I'm always early." I said, "You don't even have an option to be late, do you?" He said, "Why would I be late?" I said, "Wouldn't you like to have the option to be late? Because right now you can't not be late." And he said, "Well, how do you know?" I said, "I know, dude. You're here 20 minutes early." So then we did some work together. I said,
Well,
"Next
maybe
time,"
he's paying you by the hour. He wants to really
that could be
get
it.
all.
That could be it. So anyway, it was real fun. And all I'm doing, Molly, just to bring it all back around, all I'm actually doing is using the job that I had of comedy to see
Yep.
the conflicts that are inside of people or around
Yeah.
people, show it to them, and help bring them freedom. And now we're doing it on a mass level with marriages all over the country.
Well, and you're getting ready to kick off your 2025 tour, right?
We are, yes.
Tell us about that, and how do people find out about it and sign up, buy tickets and
So
attend and all that?
It's called Funny How Marriage Works, and
Yeah.
we're kicking our tour off in Los Angeles, San Francisco, and San Diego. I don't know, it's going to be all over the place. So you want to get tickets. We're normally in front of 3,000 people at a time, but we've actually decided to do smaller venues because we wanted
Okay.
it to be more intimate. So again, it's called Funny How Marriage Works. You show up with your spouse. Some people are not even married yet. They just want the material. They want the content. They want to be able to laugh with their spouse. And they're showing up in droves to laugh and learn about marriage. So if people want to come through, they should, because we're going to laugh a lot. And we have, and for those who are just interested in checking their marriage joy score, we created a quiz where people can find out what is their marriage joy meter, where is it at, and how can we get it better. So if they want that, I think there's a link somewhere probably in the show notes.
No, we're going to put it in the show notes, but it's funnyhowmarriageworks.com/joy score. And then you have a conflict resolution sort of quiz too.
We do.
Tell me about, so when I'm trying to get my husband to empty the dishwasher, and so do I take this quiz and show him?
Yeah, because everyone has a conflict style, right? We've seen those before. But people actually have a conflict resolution style too. Like, how do you resolve conflict? So we've actually been able to break it down to really 4 areas of resolution for conflict. And most people fall in the realm of compromiser. Most people try to become a compromiser, which sounds great. But when it comes to marriage, let me ask this question to the listeners as well. If a bridge was compromised, would you drive over it?
Right. I don't think so.
Nobody wants a compromised outfit, or nobody wants to go for a compromised helicopter ride. So why would you purposely live in a compromised marriage? So we actually help couples understand and show them how to decompromise a relationship. Because if you think about it, anytime you compromise on something, let's say you have a big blowout with your spouse. Now, whatever that big blowout was, you come up with a compromise, but now you can't really talk about it anymore. You got to kind of sweep it under the rug. But now there's a lump in your rug. And you wonder why your spouse is tripping. Like, there's a lump in your rug. That's why they're tripping. And then the more you compromise, the more lumps you have in your rug. And you've probably met a couple before that has said something like this before. I don't know what happened. It just seems like we don't have anything to talk about anymore. Or they say, I feel like I don't feel like myself anymore. Well, it's because the relationship is over compromised. But the good news is we actually found a way to help people decompromise a relationship, and it doesn't just take them back to where they were, but it actually takes them back to an even better place. Because all of those things, all of those conflicts that showed up, they had them before they got married. They just didn't know it. It was the spouse that pushed their button to help them see it was there. People always say that, my spouse just know how to push my buttons. Yeah. But they never ask the question, well, what does this button go to?
Right.
Never ask that question.
Sure.
And a lot of our people, I got a great friend named Gary Chapman. Dude is brilliant. I don't know if you read his book, Love Languages.
Yeah.
That dude is brilliant. Oh, everybody knows.
I read that a long time ago, man.
There's a love language. One is called, there's 5 love languages, but one of them is physical touch and acts of service, which technically could be the same thing depending on how you get down in your marriage. Anyway, that was right on cue with the drink. That was right on cue. Anyway, so in the book it explains that if your love language is acts of service, your spouse fills up your tank by doing acts of service or buying gifts or whatever your love language is. The question we like to help people answer is, why is the tank leaking? Because if we can help you understand why the tank is leaking and help you fix the tank, now the love language speaking goes from onus to bonus. That's where we want to take people with Funny How Marriage Works.
That's good stuff, and I love meeting Ebony when we were together. I got to get to know your bride. She's special.
Yeah, she's on stage with me, so it's not just me doing jokes.
I know.
My wife is bringing
She
the
puts
knowledge.
up with you at home and at work. I mean, she's...
That is awesome. Both.
Hey, listen. Oh, man. Well, listen, I could do this forever. I want to hit you with some rapid fire. And, you're on your toes. You're ready to go. Tell me this. In the last year, what's a new habit or maybe a purchase that has improved your life?
I would say meditation.
Weighted blanket?
Yes, I've been meditating on the second half of John 10:10. Jesus has come that I may have life more abundantly. So just meditating and being super still in the mornings, just being still. It's been great.
How long do you meditate for?
On Daily, about 20 minutes, but on Saturdays, almost like an hour.
Yeah, that's outstanding. You know, what's cool is I find really cool is that aligning it with Scripture when you're
absolutely
meditating, which is really whenever I've talked about that, my husband's like, it's prayer, honey. Like, I don't, you know, right?
You're praying. Right.
Yeah, that's cool. What are you reading right now, watching, or listening to that is inspiring you?
My granddaughter. I'm just watching her run around freely. Like she was just not too long ago, she was yelling to the top of her lungs.
Wow. Does that inspire you?
She wasn't crying. She was just yelling because she could yell. She was yelling the word no. And I'm like, how much freedom is that? Like she could just scream no. Like, Molly, you should try that today. Go to the mall. Just randomly scream no. And let's just see how people respond. Let's see how that works out. Like, we can't do that, but they can just absolutely yell like it doesn't make any sense. In the middle of Dollar Tree, she's just yelling. I don't recommend people go to Dollar Tree. You know, not that they're responsible. It's always
listen, I was just ready to close a deal with those guys to cut a little cut in.
It's too late now.
It is. So who or what is a game changer who inspires you and why?
I would go with, I'm going to go with my wife. My wife, Ebony, because she has done this thing. She does this thing where she taught me how to do this without even saying anything. She thinks about what she thinks about. That's fascinating to me. So in our marriage, when we first, I don't know, we're like 5 years in, she would always think about what she's going to say before she said it, which was amazing. I know that seems so simple. Like, I know you're supposed to do it.
Yeah, you are supposed to do it. Yeah, most women like me don't.
Right? She did it, and then and I'll be like, hey, what are you doing right now? But when you're not responding, and she's thinking about me and thinking, but then she came up with this right here, and instead of just telling you what it is, I'm gonna give you and your audiences a sample of it, right?
Okay.
And it's pertaining to marriage. So Molly and Molly's entire awesome, amazing audience. I'm going to ask you a question. My wife would normally do this on stage. But I don't want you to answer the question out loud. But I want you to notice how you feel as you get ready to answer this question. It's about marriage and compromise. So if you got to the end of your marriage, let's say you're in your 90s, 95, 100, however old you're going to be, you get to the end of your marriage. And if you compromised on everything, how would you feel?
Not good. I'd be unhappy with that.
Exactly. That's what's so amazing. At all of our events around the country, we ask that question, and we hear rejected, lost, confused, cheated. But the very thing that we're taught is marriage is all about compromise. But I can't find anywhere in the Bible where God tells us to compromise in marriage. But it's exactly what we've been doing. And what my wife said to me, she said she noticed, because she thinks about what she's thinking about, every time she would compromise, she would feel just a little bit of resentment, a little bit of resistance, and a little bit of regret. So when I asked that question, like, you felt the same thing just now, and probably your listeners did as well. So our plight, our desire is to help show people another route other than compromise that doesn't lead to resentment, resistance, and regret, but leads to freedom. And it's really not as complex as you might think. It is funny how marriage works.
I love that. Look at you, just boom, drop that mic. You know, pick another. Give me a really quick, real life, don't compromise, do this instead example.
Because here's what we do at our workshops that we do. We actually have people. We just did a cruise called Funny How Marriage Works. We did a cruise. There was 400 couples who came through.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
And we told them, what we tell people at our workshops, we say, hey, we want you to show up with a conflict. And Molly, this is bananas, but it works. We want you to show up with a conflict that you haven't been able to resolve, or any conflict at all. And our desire is when you leave, like when the people left the boat, they no longer had that conflict in their marriage. They didn't figure out a way to compromise. They didn't have the conflict anymore. And in fact, I said to him at the beginning of the cruise, I said, in fact, for some of you, when your spouse does that thing again, you'll actually smile or giggle. And it was about 11 couples that had that experience. when their spouse did the thing that bothered them so much throughout their whole marriage, now when they do it, they smile or giggle. It sounds bananas, but it's so true. Because if you think about what happens is when your spouse pushes a button, you're off your what we call your 9. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness. The fruits of the spirit are gone. But if we can do something to get those fruits back, not manufacture and act like they're back, the second fruit is joy.
Wow.
Yeah. So now the spouse does that, and that trigger turns into a trigger of laughter instead of discouragement.
Wow.
So I can show you a real life example if you want. You gotta give me a real life disagreement.
Okay, I would say, well, and my husband and I just celebrated our 24th wedding anniversary, and we have 3 girls in college, and so we've been through a lot of stuff, right? Getting these little miracles. But I would say if I had to just
are they all out the house now? Are they all out the house now?
Yes. But I mean, yes, there's conflict because that's the only indicator of a healthy marriage, obviously, because you got to deal with things. But I would say that the one thing would be he's got Puerto Rican blood in him, so he gets amped up. He can get kind of amped up and kind of go from like 0 to 60 pretty quick on something. And sort of turns sort of something that really we could stay calm with into an amped up moment. And I'm not a big amped up. I don't get, really ever amped up like that. And so, like, for example, I'll give you an example. These window washing people came to the house the other day. And they were not, I had booked another company the day before. This other company I had reached out to had not booked, and they just showed up. And I was out I was working out, I think, and they came in, and then they got all hot with my husband about how you should have canceled and all the stuff. And then he sort of went back at him, and I was like, dude, easy, right? Like, this is not, like, this is supposed to be kind with these human. These guys are just showing up trying to make a couple, like, come on. And he's like, so I told him, and da-da-da. And I was like, bro, like, whoa. So I'm always sort of, when people get amped up, I get calmer. So what do you got for me?
So beautiful. So first of all, there's always a parallel, right? So your husband has a tendency to get loud and amped up. And then in that moment, you're off your 9. Like you're not. So just to make it simple.
He doesn't get loud, just to clarify. Always. Okay. Sometimes he'll get loud, but he'll get amped up.
He get amped up. But the amp it amplifies sound.
Yeah.
That's what an amp does. So I'm just going by
Let's go with it. Let's go with it.
So watch this. So this is so cool. Watch this. You've been married 24 years. Who did you know prior to knowing your husband that got probably a little more than amped up?
A really good family friend of ours, a father.
Yeah. And it
was get really amped up.
It was pretty aggressive too, right?
Yeah. I mean, not like physically or anything, but like he'd go nuts about silly things. Yeah.
And how old were you when he would first start doing that about? What's your earliest memory?
Let's see. 10.
So here's what happened, Molly. So when you were 10 years old, there was some sort of incident where that character got really, really loud and it scared you. And you took on a lie in that moment that said loud voices are scary. And God wants that lie removed from you because it's in you right now. So what's the best way for him to let you know it's there so it could actually be removed? Maybe give you a husband that has a tendency to raise his voice, which pushes your button. But if you compromise, when you compromise, you keep the lies. But instead of compromising, we can actually get curious, find out what that is. Now, listen, the simple fact that I shed light on that just now, obviously, I didn't know that you had a guy in your past who did that. I didn't know anything about that.
Sure.
But the fact that this is bothering you so much, the fact that it's taking you off your 9 means that something took place. So just the simple fact that we're shedding light on that, I am willing to guarantee you, not to the fullest degree that we could take it, but I'm willing to guarantee you the next time your husband raises his voice, if he does so within the next 48 hours or he gets a little amped within the next, say, 48 hours, maybe even a week, it actually will not bother you as much. It will in 2 weeks, but it won't because now you've gotten internally curious. What most people do instead of getting internally curious, we get externally furious. and then we
Yeah,
just push the
yeah.
other person's button. But just now together, we got curious about that internally as opposed
Right.
to externally. And that's where the real freedom is. So that's
Yeah.
probably 0.5% of what we would walk people through a little bit.
Yeah. Wow, that's good stuff, man. That's good
But
stuff. No, and
had you
look,
ever connected those two before?
never, 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 and never. I haven't. And it's really more about. I'm not a big fire drill fan, unnecessary fire drill fan, right? And so
Yeah.
it's the loud, but it's the fire drill
Yeah.
of like amping up over something. And that's what this man did, by the way. Like if you didn't mow the lawn with the lines directly paralleled, he'd go insane. And it was like so
Absolutely.
ridiculous, right? And so
Absolutely.
it's like any of those unnecessary amp up fire drills, regardless of tone, just feel a waste of energy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But you see how there's a little something in, like, because
Yeah, yeah, that's so
interesting.
interesting.
Yeah, there's other people who, when he does that, it doesn't bother them, but
Yeah,
you, for
that's
some
probably
reason,
true.
it does.
Yeah.
Because one of my favorite lines that we use often is, "Life will bring you people and circumstances to reveal where you're not free yet."
Yeah,
And
that's
life
cool.
has presented you with the circumstances revealing where you're not free. But if you just try to get him, worst case scenario, worst thing you could do, I shouldn't say the worst thing you could do, is you could ask him to, ideally, your husband doesn't get as amped. Ideally, right? But here's the truth. He actually can't not. He actually can't not do it. I know it would seem like it. He could try to hold it down, but if God is as awesome as he is, he would rather have his daughter free than his son quiet. He would much rather have that. Therefore, ideally what happens is you get curious as opposed to furious, and then actually get free from it. And then I'm telling you, this is the craziest part. My wife was here, she vouched for this, or all of these couples we've been working with. When you're free from the thing, Molly, I know it sounds crazy. You could edit this part out. But miraculously, your husband will not get as amped as he currently is. Assignment would
Interesting.
be over. I know.
What's
I know.
that?
It just sounds bananas. The assignment
Yeah.
would be over.
Wow,
I
that
know
is.
it's
That
we
is.
have couple after couple that we either coaching or coming to our master classes or Funny How
Yeah,
Marriage Works
yeah.
over and over again, and we're showing them this, and it's blowing their neck out. Like, what the
Wow.
deal? What have I been doing? Because think
Yeah.
about it. When I asked you, how would you feel if you got to the end of your marriage and compromise on everything?
Yeah,
It
yeah.
just felt like, like there's got to be a
Yeah.
better way. So
Right.
intuitively, you know there has to be a better way. Just for
Right.
whatever reason, God has shown us this path to get there. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. But and I think about grace and forgiveness, and also saying I certainly am not perfect, right? And so you shed a light on all of those things, I would imagine.
Yeah, because
your
imagine this. Imagine, do you eat bacon? I don't know if you eat bacon.
No, look at me, man. Are you kidding me? I mean, you think this just
Okay,
happens,
what's a
Michael? Let's
food-
go.
What's the food that you love? What's one of your favorite foods?
My favorite foods. Let's see.
Just one food.
I'm an overnight oats morning. My favorite food. Food's fuel to me. Let's see. Filet. If I had to guess, probably filet.
filet.
Really good filet.
All right, so let's say you asked me to go bring you a filet. Let's say I'm your waiter, right? Because I love serving people. And I'm supposed to bring you this filet. But instead, for some reason, I bring you this porter strip house thing. You've never had it before. It's a porter strip house. It's not what you ordered. But you
Right.
don't recognize that it's not what you ordered until you cut into it. And it is the most magnificent piece of meat you've ever had before. You don't understand how you've never had this before. You're looking around, you're staring at it. This thing is magnificent and it's delicious. Are you upset that I didn't bring you the filet?
No, I'm really not, because now I've learned about another piece of meat that I'm like thinking is pretty awesome.
Exactly. So, if your husband, using your husband for example, if he showed you an area where you hadn't been free even before you met him, would it then be necessary for him to apologize for having been amped all of that time? This is something we're still kind of digging into, because if you're free in a way
Interesting.
you've never been free before, and he was the one to help you get there, what
Yeah.
happens intuitively is the couples are becoming more, like, immediately compassion is showing up in marriages like it hasn't been there before because
cool.
of this thing.
Yeah.
Like who is the person who says, "Get this junk out of here. It's delicious, but I asked for a filet." Like you got some
Right.
different issues going on, right? That's a different. Like clearly there was somebody in their life before who slapped them with a filet when they was a kid. Like something else took place
Sure.
at that
Sure.
point.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
so we're just taking a different path to help a lot of marriages, and
It's really
it's actually
cool.
pretty exciting. It's really, really exciting.
That was the longest rapid fire I've ever had, but the coolest rapid fire I think I've ever had. That's good stuff, man. I feel though like my wonderful husband. I mean, he is absolutely incredible, and I feel, I feel like I need to.
It's gold because you don't have all your like. Let's be clear. Like you're not running on. You're not doing amazing. Like you're doing some stuff too. If God really wanted you guys together, chances are highly likely that you push His buttons as well.
100%. Oh yeah.
And the buttons that you're pushing is probably lined up to an area where He's not yet free. But if you just compromise, you just keep the lies. But how awesome
it feels like kind of a cool exercise to be like, honey, what are the things that I do that drive you crazy, and what are the things
already in our masterclass notes right now.
I love it, man. I love it.
That's
and then write it all down and dig in, get curious.
We write them. We have people make a button list every time their spouse does something that gets to them. They write it down in a certain format, and then we show them what to do with it. And now I'm telling you, my wife's not there yet, but I actually get a little excited when conflict shows up. I'm like, ooh, look at this. Yay. I'm telling you, it's pretty awesome.
That is killer. Well, listen, Michael Jr., man, I tell you what, we go from comedy and how to write jokes to purpose and jobs and work and marriage advice, quizzes.
I know.
You're a breath of fresh air, man. Thanks for the work that you do in the world and the people that you serve. I love your mission.
No, thank you, Molly. You're doing a phenomenal job. To jump from where you were, you're an insurance agent, right? To jump from insurance agent to...
Wow. I was killer at it, man.
You're amazing. You were at Allstate before it was Allstate.
100%.
To jump from that to the state, because if you think about it, like you have to... What percentage as an agent of your communication is just one-on-one or one-on-3?
Right. Oh, yeah.
Like mostly
all
of it. And now it's 1 to 8,000.
Right. Yeah.
And you made the transition, and it looks like it's just what you were called to do. Well, all of that was preparation for your work, and you're doing.
It's just like what you said. That's right. Yeah. Michael Jr., you're the boss, man. You're awesome. Thank you.
Thanks for being amazing.